Yes. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Connected Women Win. My name is Tasha M. Scott, and I am a certified life coach, business mentor, and I am on a mission.
And y'all, when I read this book, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman has been stalking my life because I'm serious. Everything in there, I was like, she gets me. She actually gets me. I am here. Yes, I give myself permission.
I'm on a mission to help women, to help everyone to literally uncover and understand their God given potential. It started with my own journey, and I love saying Connected Women Win. And if you are just joining for the first time, what is Connected Women Win all about? Well, it's first about our connection to God. Next, it's about our connection to ourselves. Then it's about our connection to our purpose so that we can properly connect to others. And the purpose of this episode is for me to introduce you to phenomenal people like our guest tonight, Mrs. Tony Purry. And I love this because the guests that I bring on, I have some kind of connection with them. And with this guest today, we go way back. So, Tony, welcome to the Connected Women Win Show. Thank you for being on here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I was so tickled when you invited me and
Yes.
certainly honored, but it also took me way back to how we met and how we became
Mhm.
such good friends. And it was over a very long, very deep conversation that lasted all night, actually.
Yeah, we got to tell people the history of that because I don't think either one of us were married then.
No, we weren't. We
Nope,
weren't.
no. So this went back, gosh, I don't even know the year. We'll just say way back when.
Yes, exactly. Over 20 years ago.
Yeah. We both were at a prayer retreat at our church. And we knew of each other. We saw each other at church. We were always friendly to each other. We said hi, and we knew the same people at church. But it was something about that particular retreat that we kind of just gravitated toward each other. We're at a place where this was like really one of those retreats where you had bunk beds.
It was very rustic.
Yes, yes. And we both had top bunks. And I know they wanted to throw a shoe at us or something. Because we literally stayed up all night talking.
We did. We did. We sat across from each other in our bunks, and we
Mhm.
did. We talked all night long, and
Yeah.
about
And we
those other women. That's so funny because we never even thought about the other women that were in the
we
room, and there
did.
were probably about six or so other women in the room.
Right, right, right. That was so much fun because we really got to know each other that night. And we also came to understand that we both were driven by dreams, by
Yes,
visions, different
yes,
things. There was a bond that was started that night. But then you know what happened after that? You remember our walks in the park?
yes, I do. We had a pact. We would meet at, what was it, like 5 in the morning. We had to meet at 5 o'clock in the morning, and we had a rule that we could not call to
That's
bail
right.
out.
That's
If
right.
you weren't going to show up, you were just not going to show up. And that
That's
pressure of knowing that you could possibly be out at the park on a day when I was not there was too
right,
much pressure.
right,
So it
right.
was
That
a
was
great, see, here's the thing, we were accountability partners way
yep,
before it
before we
became
even
a
knew what
thing.
the word meant.
I know it. I know. You remember there were times it'd be raining, and
Mhm.
both of us would show up because we had this rule, we couldn't call and say, "Hey, I'm not going to make it." We just had
That's
to go out there and do it. And there
That's
was
right.
never a time that the other one didn't show, and we did that for a long time.
Yeah, and we would walk around that park and we would talk and we would dream out
Yes.
loud.
Yep, we
That
did.
was powerful.
It really was. It really was.
Mhm. Yeah. And then I have to we had some really good times, but I also have to let people know that we also saw each other in some low places too.
That's
You
true.
know, we were both young, married, still trying to figure things out,
Yes.
and we were very real with each other.
That's
You know.
true. That's true. That's one thing that I've always appreciated about our friendship is there
Mhm.
is a freedom to be transparent and honest and authentic and all of
Yeah,
those things that are buzzwords now, but it's been the nature of our friendship. And
yeah,
I really appreciated that because we've been that soft place to fall for each other. We've also been, that person to lift the other one up and say, hey, you can do it. And we've been those
yeah.
cheerleaders, for each other. And that's really important when you are somebody who is a dreamer and who has passions and desires and wants to pursue things.
Mhm.
And you can, participate in the friendship, realizing there's no judgment and, there's really just a genuine celebration.
That's right. That's right. And so fast forward to today, we've been the kind of friends that we don't have to talk every day. We don't even
Right.
have to talk every week or every month, but
No,
we always find a way to come back and just pick up where we left off.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And I
Mhm.
really have loved that over all these years. I think we talk more now than we have in previous years, which I really enjoy.
Mhm.
But it's nice that the relationship has gone through different stages where we didn't have to, talk all the time. But you're right, we always picked up right where we left off, and
Mhm.
that's a really beautiful thing.
Yes. So here we are. Now you are a guest on my talk series, Connected Women Win. And for everyone, now that we've given everybody the backstory about who we are together, tell
Right.
everyone about you, Tony, about what you're doing now and just a little more about you.
Okay. Well, my whole career has been in public relations, and I'm doing something a little different now. I work now as a visibility strategist and business mentor and consultant.
Mhm.
And I wrote a book last year, so I can also add author and speaker to my title, which is really, really great. Although I think I've really been speaking over all the years, I just never really owned it like I am now.
Right.
so, so that's kind of the difference there. But I worked in PR for many years, and I had a PR agency for 10 years, and it was a lifestyle and travel and tourism agency. Although we were really a generalist agency because we had everything from independent chefs to university to luxury hotels and airlines and destinations and
Mhm.
shopping centers, just a lot of really fun clients. And I had the agency for 10 years, a
Wow.
really beautiful, talented team of employees, a beautiful creative office space, all the things that you would want in a business.
Yeah.
But somehow around year 8, I found myself not quite as fulfilled as
Mhm.
I had been in previous years. And quite honestly, Tasha, I can look back and say I was just burnt out. I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. I
Mhm.
was overworked. And in hindsight, I also think I invited a lot of that on myself because I put a lot of undue pressure on myself.
Mhm.
Um, I'm so driven. I think it can sometimes be to a fault. And I think I drove myself a little crazy, with the business of wanting to achieve and wanting to succeed and wanting to do really, really great by our clients and my team and, all of that. But around year 8, I started really not liking the company and the business. And it was like, I always liken it to, you ever date a guy and he's a nice guy and there's really nothing wrong with him. But when he blinks, you kind of want to punch him in the face.
Never quite heard that before, but, but I get what you're saying.
That's how I felt. The company was fine, but I was just so annoyed by it and everything about it. And a great part of it was I didn't know how to give myself permission to be tired of it. I didn't
Yeah.
know how to give myself permission to want to do something else. I'd been
Yeah.
calling it my company my baby for 8 years. And now I
Mhm.
didn't want the baby anymore. And we were an award-winning agency. I mean, we won many, many awards, and we had a really impressive roster of clients. But I always had a really high performing team of employees, but I was just at the end. And so, and when you kind of get at the end and you're not willing to admit it, that puts a strain on the company. And that strain then made me feel depressed and lose my confidence. And there were some things that happened that were just kind of brutal because, you know, as an entrepreneur, you sort of have to, it's a fight, you know, it's kind of a constant, you're kind of constantly fighting to keep things going, and you're wearing all these hats and probably putting more pressure on yourself than you need to, like I was. Yeah. And so I scaled the business back, moved any employees that were full-time, transitioned to contract employees, moved out of the beautiful creative office space and started working from home. And I just had a handful of employees, and I was trying to figure out what's next. My biggest challenge was I knew I didn't want to continue doing that. And at this point, it was around year 10. I knew I didn't want to do that anymore, but I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And so I was really embarrassed, and my confidence had taken a major hit. It's one thing to say, I'm not doing this anymore because I'm going to do this. But when you say, I don't want to do that, and I'm walking away from that, and I have no idea what I wanted, there was a lot of shame that came with that. And something really miraculous happened for me. My husband was watching a documentary about Muhammad Ali, and I was walking through the living room, and I was absolutely captivated by his confidence. I wanted to understand how he maintained his confidence in the face of defeat. How did he maintain it when the country didn't support him because he didn't support the Vietnam War? And also, when he was stricken with Parkinson's disease, he still was this man of tremendous confidence. And I was just captivated trying to figure out, how did he maintain it? How did he keep it? And then a few clips later, I see right before he's going into a fight, and Boudini Brown, his corner man, his hype man, was ardently yelling at him in his face, reminding him of all of his wins, his knockouts, that he was the champ, that he was the greatest. And in that moment, Tasha, I thought, wow, if we all had a hype man, you know, we'd have that kind of confidence as well. So I said to myself, I need to make a hype book. I need to make myself a hype book. And I sat in my living room floor for 2 days, writing out all of my wins and my victories, and really just sort of shifting how I was looking at myself, because I was feeling like a pretty big loser at that point, in all honesty. And I'm thinking, you had this great company, you had these star employees, you had this really impressive roster of clients, and now look at you, you know. And in doing that, within 2 days of doing that, there was this ascension of confidence that rose up in me, because I was now looking at myself through my success lens. I wrote and journaled about, you know, I launched the company in 2007. And so that was the beginning of the recession. And we soared within the first 4 months of having the company. We had 3 major hotels that were our clients. We really soared. And then I wrote about pro bono work that we done for nonprofits that I was really proud of, because every year we'd adopt a nonprofit and represent them for free. Oh, cool. I wrote about running the LA Marathon, and just those things that personally made me really proud. And I promise you, that was a shift for me, because I was now looking at myself through my success lens. And I felt very, very confident, and really kind of the confidence that I had lived my whole life with. But now it was because I was looking at myself from a place where I could be really, really proud. And a girlfriend sent me a text message during that time and asked me what I was doing. And I said, I'm making a hype book. And she's like, what's a hype book? I said, it's the best thing ever. It's when you sit down and track your success and really write about it and celebrate it. And she said, Tony, everybody needs one. And I'm like, I know, Kim. You got to do it. That's what you have to do. She's like, no, Tony, everybody needs one. And that's why you need to write that book. And I thought, oh. And that put me on a 9-month journey writing the book that I wrote that is called My Hype Book. And it is a guided motivational journal that walks you through the process of really taking inventory of your wins, your accomplishments, your success, and just kind of a way to master your confidence by seeing yourself really the way God sees us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's powerful. And the book itself is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And I love your process. You said you sat in your living room, and can you just kind of walk us through your process for creating that book?
Yeah, well, okay. The first one that I did, it's a whole. I wish I had it with
I'm,
me. It's
I'm sorry, I don't have mine either.
well, I do have a copy of the finished version, which is really this is my personal. Actually, this is the one that I take when I go on speaking engagements. So I've got the little tabs on it. But
Yeah.
but the one that I created for myself when I was sitting on the floor was I collect journals. I've always loved journals, so I pulled a journal, a big one, off my shelf that was blank, and I just started writing. And I took pictures. I printed out pictures and cut and pasted, and it was really just a legacy book of those things that I had done that just made me proud. And I was really specific because I didn't want to do those things that society says you should be. This is what success is.
Right.
It was really about me. It was about what made my heart sing when I did it. And that was the thing that made it so different for me. And then when I decided to do the book, I actually pulled my graphics designer who'd been a long time with my company. I called her up and said, I'm working on this new project and I want you to be a part of it and I want you to design it. And I literally took it to her in a notebook in PowerPoint form, and I showed her mine that I created, and she's one of great vision. And I said, this is it. I mean, it was really raw. And she got a vision right away. And so our process was actually really unique because I was writing and she was designing at the same time. Her name is Joanna Holden, and her company is Modular Inc. And she is phenomenal. And she went on the whole process with me, all 9 months of it. And so we finished with, what is now called my Hype book. And it's just a guided motivational journal that walks you through the process of, really just sort of taking inventory of your wins, your knockouts, your success, things that you've overcome. And it's something that I'm extremely proud of, and it's been really phenomenal to see how it has impacted people that are using it themselves.
And you know what I love about this, Tony, is that you took your own life, you took your own story, poured yourself into this project, and would you say you discovered your purpose as a result of
Well, yes. Because so after I wrote the book, it was really funny. Friends would introduce me as, this is my friend Tony, the author. And I'd go, because I didn't set out to write a book. You and I are like visionaries, and we're like, I'm going to do this. And then that's what we do.
Don't get in my way.
Exactly. And so with this, I didn't have any deadline for finishing it. I just started, and I was just in the process of writing, and Joanna was designing, and it was a really fun process for us to actually go through together. And so when I got this, here's a fun story. I didn't have a deadline for the book. And in January, a journalist friend from Boston, who I would often bring down to California, fly her into California to do things with our clients and visit with our clients and write stories about them. She called and she was, who are your new clients? What do you have going on? I said, well, I kind of about to close the agency. And she was like, wait, what are you talking about? You've got a great agency. And I told her about the book. And she said, I'm working for a commercial real estate development company doing some contract work, and they have a big conference every year for all of their brokers. Would you mind if I submitted your name to the senior vice president to come and speak? And I thought, sure. And I really didn't think anything was going to come of it, and she called me back a couple of days later and said, he doesn't want you for that. He wants you for your own thing, and he's going to buy the books for everybody in attendance.
Wow.
I know, Tasha. I was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, that's so great. And then I thought, oh my gosh, I have to finish this book now.
You didn't know what you're getting into.
I did not know what I was getting into. So not only have to finish the book, but what we did was that we did something really different, because I started wondering, well, was this book just good for me, or was it something that other people would resonate with? And
Right.
because we had to have the books for a deadline now, I decided to launch a crowdfunding campaign. So we launched the book on Kickstarter. I had no idea how all consuming crowdfunding campaigns are. No idea. Went into it again. One of those things like we do. We have this big idea and then we just go for it. And then you get it, you're like, what was I thinking? I had no idea. So I wasn't able to do any PR or anything on it. But within 11 days, we met our goal. And then by the time we finished, we were over 30% over our goal. And that was so affirming for me, because I realized this was something that resonated with a lot of people, and that at any time in our lives, our confidence can be shaken. You can be the most confident person,
right?
It can be shaken, or you can be somebody that, you know, it's been a thing that you've struggled with because you know, maybe had a parents that didn't quite nurture that, you know, that in you.
Right.
And so that was one of those things where, okay, now I've been in this lovely process of writing, and now I had to make it, you know, make it happen. And and as a matter of fact, those books went straight to Boston.
Wow.
Because I mean, they went off the presses and then shipped to Boston for that speaking engagement. So we were way up against the deadline. I was able to get one copy here the same time that they got them in Boston the day before I arrived. So
my goodness,
there was a lot of faith going in
that
journey.
And you mentioned several times that we're visionaries. And one thing I know about people like you and I is that if you would have known that people were going to be requesting it, you probably would have taken longer in the process, because trying to get it right, trying to get it perfect.
Right.
And what I heard you say in this conversation is, I just knew to start.
Yes, that was it. And that was I knew to start. When my girlfriend called and said, no, you need to write that, something clicked, and I'm like, you're right. And I do like that I didn't have any pressure at that point, because I was just able to freely write. I'd sit at my desk and just write for hours, and I was in this happy place, and I'd get inspiration from everywhere. I did a lot of hiking and walking during that time, and going to the gym and movies, and it was just this time where I was just so open for inspiration, and everything was happening so organically. It's like God was speaking to me through the trees and ads and conversations that I'd overhear a mom and daughter have in the, you know, in the grocery line. I mean, it was such a time of inspiration, and there was no pressure with it. I think when you are a really driven person and when you are a visionary, you can put a lot of pressure, a lot of undue pressure on yourself. And I think that's what I did that made me so exhausted with my agency. And I'm so glad that doing the book was such a different process. But I will say it did, to answer your first question, it did sort of help me to find a true new calling. And really, it's not so as new as I thought. I always thought, well, this is so different from what I was doing before. But really not. My job as a PR person was to generate confidence in brands, to generate hype and excitement and enthusiasm around who they are, their products, their services. And now I'm working more with individuals and companies and teams and network groups in helping individuals do that same thing for themselves, you know, to find that inner advocate, so that you know how to cheer for yourself, you know how to remember and recall those things that you've done that have allowed you to succeed and to continue and to wake up the next day and to do that next thing. And to use that as your fuel to keep going forward. So
in essence, what I heard you say, Tony, is that everything thing, every experience in your life prepared you and pushed you into this new season of your life. And you had to look at it through the success lens.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what made you open to the inspiration, because if you would have chose to focus on all the failures, all the negativity, you wouldn't have been as open.
Honestly, I wish I could frame what you just said. That is so right. And so it is so right. Here, a little quick story that I know that's proof, because when I first started the company, I read in a magazine, business magazine, that
Uh-oh, you froze on me, Tony. Oh, let me see if I can get her back here. Hold on, y'all, because this is getting good. Uh-oh. Well, while I'm waiting on Tony to come back, I definitely want to say hello to some people while I'm waiting on her to come back, and hope y'all are getting something out of this conversation as well. So hello. Hey, Rock. Hey, Shay, Kiki, LaCarsha, Phyllis, Angie. Hey, Angie, Tyra, Annette. Hello. Are y'all enjoying this conversation? Hopefully we'll get Tony right back. Can y'all still see and hear me okay? If you can, just give me some hearts or let me know. Can y'all still see it? Okay, you say yes. Okay, awesome. Well, while we're waiting on Tony to come back, are y'all enjoying this conversation? Awesome, thanks, Barb. Hey, Barb. What is standing out to you from what she's saying to you today, what she's talking to all of us about? What is standing out for you? Is this really resonating with you where you are? Thank y'all for those hearts. Awesome. Thanks, LaShawn, for that. Thanks, Tyra. Oh, I hope we can get her back. Okay, well, while I'm waiting on her, let me just, I didn't properly announce about our sponsor today. We have 1186 Water is actually sponsoring this broadcast today. And if you are in the Montgomery area, actually, they're located throughout the state of Alabama. They've been in Mobile recently. They've been in Birmingham. They do have a heavy presence right here in Montgomery, Alabama. So y'all definitely have to check out this water, 1186. It's pure artesian well water. And this is located right in Otagoville, Alabama. So go to their website, and their website is the word 11 and the number 86 water.com, and you can actually find out where or what stores. They're in Renaissance Hotel, they're in gas stations, they're everywhere. So you definitely want to check this out. I think we have Tony back with us now. Tony, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay.
No, I can see you now.
You can see me. I can't see you yet.
Okay. I think it says host has to start, has to do the video.
Let me make you a co-host and see if that makes it a difference. We're going to finish.
I think I saw your text message. You froze on your end as well.
I don't know how to make. Yeah. Shoot. There you are.
There I am.
Yay. Okay.
Yay.
We're going to get back to this conversation.
Oh,
Facebook right now. So we'll just keep going, and hopefully Facebook will pick it back up.
Okay.
All right. So what I was asking some of the people in the chat to see what are some of the things that they got out of what you were saying, because a lot of people really resonated with what you're talking about.
Okay.
Lakarsha says the lens of success.
Yes.
The writing. Tyra says how you kept your mind clear for writing. So a lot of people are saying that they really resonate with what you're talking about today. So you know what? We're going to keep going with this conversation.
Okay.
It's powerful.
Very good. Very good.
Awesome. So just pick up where you know where you want to. Just pick up where you want.
Let's see. Let me ask, was there a question? Because I can't even remember where I was.
When you talk about, Tyra said one of the things you talked about was keeping your mind clear for writing. And we were talking about how you attracted the ideas, the creativity by keeping yourself open to the lens of success versus focusing on the negativity. And I think that's where we got cut off.
Yeah, I think, where I was getting inspiration from a lot of different places. But every night that I'd sit down, I mean, there was a lot of prayer. I'm going to be very honest, because I was in a season where I was just trying to figure out what next, God, what, surely this isn't it. Surely you didn't have me accomplish the things that have accomplished. And that's the best years are behind me. That can't be.
Yeah.
And so I was extremely inspired because I did a lot of praying, and I was kind of in the word, and I was, I had this insatiable desire to hear from God, to really understand, what is it that's next for me? Right. So I think that was the funnel that opened up, where I was able to sort of be in this clear space where I could just really focus on writing. And it was, I will say, writing was super cathartic for me. I'd sit down at the computer at 9 in the morning, and I wouldn't leave until after 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'd write and I'd rewrite, and I'd write and I'd rewrite. And there were times I'd read things and I wouldn't even remember having written, that something that I'd written a couple of days before. There are parts that I go to the book now and I'll read them and think, wow, that was really, God's hand just kind of guiding me through this whole process and giving me new purpose. In my life, but using all of my years of success, all of my accomplishments. There's a section in the book. So the book is divided into 6 categories. The first half of the book actually is practices. And those practices really just help you take inventory of who you are, your gifts, your strengths, your talents, those things that we don't always look at ourselves and see. And then the second half is where you do the journaling. And it's divided into 6 categories. So there's major milestones, there's significant victories, there's health and wellness achievements, there are good and charitable deeds, there are life adventures, and then lessons learned. And I wanted to be really intentional about putting that in there, because things don't always go the way we want them to in life. But if we, instead of sitting in that place of feeling like a victim, but we are able to extrapolate from that, the very thing that makes that we're all the wiser having gone through that, then it becomes a victory, because we're smarter because of that we went. It may have been uncomfortable and horrible and as unfun can get. But we know something now because of that. Even if you're laid off from a job, maybe I don't really love doing this, or I'm not good at this, or I don't want to work in this kind of environment. Maybe you had a bad breakup. You realize these types of characteristics aren't compatible for my personality. There's all sorts of things that we can take from experiences that aren't favorable. And what do we learn from that? And then we jot that down. And how are we different? How are we wiser? What do we know now about ourselves that we didn't know before? So that's a very big part of it. So it's looking at everything from that place, because then that becomes a place of success as opposed to, a failure or, a disappointment.
Yeah, that's so good. And on the other side of this now, I love that you're getting more speaking engagements, you're getting more clear in your purpose. And what's next now? You have the book, you birthed this baby. Now what?
Well, my work now is actually really fun. I am working a lot, really one-on-one with companies or small companies, helping them kind of create a visibility strategy for themselves to find the most confident, compelling, and creative way to raise their personal brand or their brand profile or their company profile. So it's very much marrying what I did as a PR person to what I'm doing with this book, because there are a lot of people that don't even feel like they are worthy of being the front cover of, in Entrepreneur magazine, or
Right.
they don't feel worthy of being the speaker on that stage, or they're like, I'm not quite there yet. My company's not there yet. And really, we all have powerful stories. We all have something to share. We all have something to teach. And the more we see ourselves that way, the more we realize we are worthy of the platforms to get those messages out there and be an inspiration. Because where do we learn from? We learn from each other. We learn from each other's mistakes. We learn from each other's successes. And so my work now is with individuals and building really smart brands for themselves that help them to position themselves for the kind of success that I think they're really worthy of.
That's good, Tony. And now that you've gone through this experience and being a PR person yourself with all of your knowledge, don't you think it's important for us to get our stories out of us?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I cannot tell you how I am moved so much by books and movies and listening on the radio. I mean, when I hear somebody else's story, I am so inspired, and there aren't many stories that you can't relate to in some sort of way. You may not be the big, thing, but there may be little nuggets that you get about that you go, oh, I get that. I understand what that is. And it helps me. And so I think all of us, I know you're doing a kind of a campaign where you're encouraging people to write their book.
Write their story.
I think it's write your story. I think that's so important and so powerful. One, it's a really empowering thing. I always planned on writing a book. My former assistant, who was really the boss in our office, we were all scared of her. And she's very, she's 5 foot and probably even 4'11", and she would probably say she was the boss of everybody. We loved her, but she would come into my office and she would always field calls from women that would say, can I just have 30 minutes of Tony's time? I want to just pick her brain to see how she's done it, and could she advise me? And I always made time for those women. And my assistant would always say, you need to write a book, Tony. You need to write a book. You need to write a book about this. And I'm like, but I'm not there yet. I haven't made it to this place yet. I'm not ready. And she'd say, well, Tony, that's the thing. Maybe you aren't at that place you see yourself, but you've made so much progress and you're accomplishing enough that all of these women are wanting to come and spend time with you. You should do it. And she's so funny. She came in my office one day and she said, you know what? You are really one of the most generous people that I've worked for. And it's hard to see that you're just so selfish. And I said, what? What are you talking about? And she said, because you have all this knowledge and this ability, and I've seen you. And if you put it in a book, you could help so many people. If you shared your stories, you could help so many people. But right now, all you can help is these one-offs where you have time to squeeze them in. And she's like, so you're just selfish. So I said, you're fired. And she said, no, you're fired because you won't write that book. So
I love it. I love it.
Gotta love her. But she was so right. We think we have to be at a place before we can tell our story. But honestly, now is the time, because there is a story in you.
That's right.
It's important because it has an impact and it'll draw people to you. If you've got a business, that helps to draw people to you. People are now doing business with people, not with companies.
That's right.
There is a tailor that I go to that he's like 3 cities away from me.
Yeah.
I go to him because I love the story. I see him and his wife and his little son running around the store, and I know their story, and I want to patronize him. I pass probably 50 tailors between my place and his place, but it's because I know his story and I appreciate who he is and what he's built, that's who I want to do business with. And I will tell you, he's not the cheapest, but I don't mind because I value what I see in him and his family him as an individual and what he's doing for his family. So I think it's so important for us to
Mhm.
have the courage to write
Mhm.
that book and not be selfish,
Yeah.
like Linda said I was. But she was being right, because you can only tell so many people your story, but if you
Mhm.
can create something that can be multiplied,
Right.
you definitely want to do that.
I agree. I agree. And the thing is, here's what I love about your book, Tony, is you didn't go the traditional route. And I
Right.
think sometimes when people hear write your story or tell your or put it in book form, people are thinking one way. But there
Right.
are
Right.
many different ways
So
to
many ways.
put your book. You just got to give yourself permission to
Right.
one, think outside the box, but
Yes.
be yourself in how you
Yes.
do it. I've heard people say they're going to create workbooks. You have the My Hype book. Some people are really good at fiction writing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's their thing. Some people, maybe it's writing it in the form of a play or a movie or something, but nobody said you had to do it one way.
Right, right, right. You don't. And there are so many ways now that you can get your book out there. But here's the
Absolutely.
thing is, I even say, because I've got a couple of clients that I'm encouraging to write books. And one of them, she's like, okay, we're just going to go get held up in a hotel for a weekend, have some spot, and we're going to get this book written. And I'm like, whatever I can do to help you do that, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
But it's just starting.
that's
Just
right.
start and
That's
just
right.
write. And don't
Mhm.
bog yourself down with, I've got to write for 3 hours today, or
That's
I've got to get 5 chapters done, or just write. Just start with the process of how you see it laid out.
right.
What could the chapters be? What could the title be? What's one thing that you feel like you want to write? What's that inspiration? Go with
Mhm.
that without the pressure. Because
That's
I
right.
tell you, you said that earlier, that was key for me. I didn't feel
Mhm.
any pressure
Yeah.
around the process. And I was able to go and flow with it and
Mhm.
really allow God to guide me and
Yeah.
see some really beautiful things come as a result of it. So,
Absolutely.
so just
Absolutely.
start, just start.
Yeah. And I think people too have a fear of, I don't want everybody to know all my business. But one of the things I always say is this: if you write raw, you have your own raw manuscript, so to speak.
Mhm.
And
Right.
when it gets edited, everybody does not have to see
Exactly.
all of the
Right.
story. There's
Right.
going to be some parts that you do have to protect the innocent and the guilty.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's
Sure.
your wisdom.
Yes.
So, but the thing that and this is what you're saying, is there are lessons, there
Yes.
are things that you've learned that you can pass those along.
Exactly.
You
There's
know?
there's an expertise in you that you don't even
Yeah.
realize. There's something that you know how to do really, really well that you can
Right.
share. There's your
Yeah.
story. And here's the thing is you don't have to put yourself on blast. You
No.
can control what goes between that front and end cover.
Right.
So it's a very controlled process, which is
Yeah.
why I highly encourage people to do it. I did not know I always knew how powerful a book was.
Hmm.
And I wish I had listened to Wenda a lot, sooner. And when she watches this, she will absolutely love hearing that. But I do wish that I had listened to her sooner, because I was waiting until this moment where I felt like my story was worthy of being told. When
Wow.
really she was right. There were people that were coming to my office to hear the story and to hear how I was doing it. And
Yeah.
that was enough to inspire them to go and do the things that they wanted to do. But then
Yeah.
after I wrote this book, which is very different than anything that I would have done back then,
Right.
I realized what a gift it is, what a confidence
Hmm.
boost it is for me. It's a great
Yeah.
business card. It's one of
Yeah.
those things that really kind of positions you as an authority in an area, in the eyes of other, people pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really, really, really good thing to do. Just the process alone. And it doesn't have to become a New York Times bestseller for you to feel
No.
really proud about it. It's
No.
getting it done and sharing your story, sharing your wisdom, your expertise that can really make an impact in other people's lives.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something, because Tyra said that's how I feel when you talked about sometimes you don't feel like you're worthy enough to
Right.
even communicate anything to anyone else. And your whole book is on confidence, Tony. So what would you say to that? in addition to what you've already said?
I'd say you are worthy. I'd say
Mhm.
think about those things that do qualify you. It's so easy to get bogged down with all the things that we feel like we haven't done, we haven't accomplished, how we're not good enough, we're not good as somebody else. But there
Mhm.
are so many things that you have accomplished. Oh, I
Yeah.
remember the story that I was telling you before we caught off was when I was having that meltdown
Yeah.
because I was 18 months in and hadn't made $1 million. And my controller called me. I know. My controller, it's so ridiculous when I look back on it now. But my controller called and she's like, "What's wrong?" And I'm like, "It's 18 months in. I haven't made $1 million. Everybody was
Mhm.
right. I shouldn't have started the company." And she's like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. It's really serious." And she said, "Tony, you are thriving in the middle of a recession. People are laying people off in droves and cutting budgets by the millions. And you have companies that are calling you saying, represent us. Big hotel company, luxury hotel brand saying, represent us.
Wow.
And on top of that, you have this talented team of employees and you haven't had to lay off anybody. Cry me a river, and I'm like, "You don't get it, you don't understand." I was really sassy and hung up on her because she's my friend. She called me back a couple hours later. "Are you done having your temper tantrum?" And I said,
Wow.
"No, I'm not." And she said, "Slow your roll, Oprah. You will get
Mm.
there."
Wow.
And we laugh about that now, but it was not until I was sitting in my living room floor,
Mhm.
all 10 years later or 8 years later, where I realized we were accomplishing, we were thriving in a recession, we were doing well. And I missed out on a really good time to be really proud because I was so focused on not achieving what somebody else said success was,
That's it right
as
there.
opposed to just being really proud of all that we were accomplishing despite what was going on all over the country. So
Yeah.
I say start with a shift in how you see yourself, take
Mhm.
inventory of your accomplishments and your successes, those things that personally make you proud,
That's right.
not what society says, not what your family says, not what anybody says, just
Mhm.
that thing that makes you proud. I had one girlfriend call me after I wrote the book and she said, because I say celebrate the small stuff and the big accomplishments. So it
That's
doesn't
right.
have to be this big monumental stuff. It's just,
Yeah.
there were days for me when success was winning a big, huge account. When
Mhm.
I was going through all of this stuff, getting out of bed was success for me.
There you
Putting my
go.
feet on the floor, that was success. I
There you
had one
go.
girlfriend to call me and she said, "I got all the kids in bed. It's 9 o'clock and everything is checked off my to-do list. I am a winner." And I'm like, "Yes, you
I love
are."
it. I love it.
That is cause for celebration. And another
Mhm.
part of the book is about celebrating. How do you celebrate your wins? How do you
Yeah.
commemorate that moment that you did something that made you really proud? And I've got a list of all of these options of how you
Yeah.
can celebrate. And what I did when I was doing that, when I was writing the book, I put there's a thread of text thread that I have with about
Mhm.
6 or 7 friends that we have brunch together on a regular basis. And I
Right.
posted on there and I said, "Hey, how do you guys celebrate when you accomplish something?" And it was crickets. And so I'm like, "Why isn't anybody responding?" And I said it again the next day. And then one person said, "Tony, I'm sorry, but I realized I don't celebrate." I thought,
Man.
wow. And then I went on Facebook and I asked the question. And
Mhm.
there were a few people that said they celebrate in certain ways, but majority of the people said, "I really don't." And so if your friend gets a raise, I mean, gets a promotion, you're like, "Girl, I'm
Mhm.
going to take you out to dinner. We have to celebrate."
That's
Or
right.
let's go get, drinks or, glass of wine. But when you accomplish those things yourself, you're kind of on to the next and then on to the
Yeah.
next and on to the next. So you aren't
Yeah.
taking a moment to commemorate that
Right.
thing that makes you really proud. And it's that commemoration that makes it a moment. And
Yeah.
so I'm a really big advocate of celebrating those moments that you have. Find a way, even if it's just a happy dance in your kitchen,
Mhm.
or if it's a glass of wine,
Mhm.
or if it's go get your nails done, or a spa day, or I'm going to sleep in late, or I'm going to take a day off and not, do anything but chill and veg out, whatever it is, however you choose to make sure you commemorate those things, those moments when you're feeling really proud so that you remember those, because that makes those sit more in the forefront of your memory than those failures, or mistakes or setbacks, which we tend to dwell on, and we play
Right.
that record over and over and over again. So if you think
Yeah.
about, you are playing that record over and over again, what are you going to be remembering about yourself most? The
That's
record
right.
that you play over and over again. But if you start
Yeah.
playing that success record over and over and over again, that's how you start seeing yourself through that success lens.
Yeah. And I would add to that too, that when you're doing all of those things, stay off of scrolling on
Yes.
social media, because
Yes.
it will nullify everything, because what you're doing is you're comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
You
Right.
know, and when you compare your success, when you compare your journey to anybody else's, you're
Right.
going to feel small. You're going to feel like you haven't accomplished anything. And I think that's what has gotten a lot of people into trouble and in stuck mode, is
Right.
that whole comparison thing.
I
Like,
used
go ahead.
I used to tell my employees would say that they have to take a fast break from
Hmm.
social media. And I'd say, why? And they'd say, because my friends are getting married in the south of France and they're taking all these wonderful trips and I'm not doing any of that. And I'd say, okay, wait, hold on. First of all, do you remember that photo album that your mom has on the coffee table at home of you at your third grade birthday party? And everybody's got their cute little hats on and their horn blowers, and the cake is in front of you and you're about to blow out the candles and it's really happy and fun. And your mom's got that picture and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, she didn't take a picture of you having the meltdown 2 hours before everybody came over because you couldn't wear your cowboy with your tutu.
That's
So
right.
your mom captured the happy moments. Social
Right.
media is capturing those happy moments. That's what
Right.
that is. So you can't compare your everyday to this highlight, polished, filtered highlight reel. It's
No.
so impractical and it will
Yeah.
only make you feel,
That's
miserable.
right.
But
That's
even
right.
the best way to do that is to not even look at that and not go on there if you're prone to that. And I think
Yeah.
because I have always worked in PR, I'm not as prone to that as
Right.
others, because I understand the facade,
Sure.
and the
Sure.
images and that sort of thing. But
Hmm.
do what you have to take care
That's
of
right.
yourself so that you feel good about yourself. And if it means eliminating things, by all
Hmm.
means, do that.
Yeah, that's it right there. I love that you said that, if you're prone to that, because if you're really sensitive in that area, then no, that is not healthy for you.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
so
You
that's
got to
so
take
true,
care of
Tony.
yourself.
Absolutely. And Tony, the hype book itself, how can people get a copy of it?
Well, you can get it at myhypebook.com.
Hmm.
And that's HYPE, myhypebook.com. And if you can also find me on Instagram at Tony Purry. And if you DM me, I will sign the copy. I'll make sure that you get a signed copy. When it goes out. But you can get the book at myhypebook.com.
Awesome. And you're available for speaking engagements, right?
I am. I'm so excited. I'm really enjoying that now. Not that I didn't enjoy it more, but I think I did it mostly for work.
Yeah.
So, and it was, speaking for my clients and
Hmm.
that sort of thing. But now I'm doing it from a very different point of, really talking about, confidence just how we use that as a tool, because it really is, it's your superpower. Confidence is that thing that gives you the ability to face fear.
Yeah.
It gives you courage.
Hmm.
It has this ability to do things for you, to make things happen that you may not actually believe are possible.
That's
And
right.
so I spend a lot of time speaking on that and doing workshops around that with the book. And those are really fun. I'm doing them in corporations, but also with small groups and churches. I think
Yeah.
where I really, really enjoy it is when I
Yeah.
get a chance to speak to women's groups and when I
Mhm.
get to do it in churches, because God called us to be confident. That's
Right.
what He wants. When we're confident, we can go up and do those things that He said, I want you to do that. I want you to build that kind of business. I want you
Mhm.
to get out there and speak. I want you to do those things. And it takes that confidence to do that. And He created it in us. We just
Yeah.
have to nurture it. I say confidence is like a muscle,
That's
and you
good.
have to nurture and work that muscle. because life will happen, and it's like things can happen that can feel like a rug is being pulled out from under you. But depending on where your confidence is will determine how resilient you are and how fast you can snap back, from that thing. And when you have strong confidence, you're able to call on that and stir that up and pull that up so that you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps and move on and do those things that may be a little scary, but you're really called and supposed to do it.
That's really good. And I'm going to ask anybody that's watching right now, if you have any questions for Tony, if you have any takeaways, do me a favor and write them in the comment section now while we have Tony on the line. And while we're waiting for people to write their comments, Tony, I want to just kind of reflect back on, you actually came to a retreat that I did in Atlanta, Georgia, and spoke to the women. And I have to tell you, the session, it was very intimate, and the ladies had their hype books in front of them. And I still kept hearing them after the retreat is over, talking about how it was such a vital tool for them to keep going.
Yes.
And there was constant reminders in there. Just, I love it, to be their own hype person.
Yeah, I love that too. I think a lot of people don't realize the power. There's a section in the book that's called Word Power. And I love word power because it talks about the power of words. How often do you hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm such an idiot. Oh, so stupid." Those words have power. But you are also a woman or a person who may be a person of compassion, or you're really gregarious, or you're really smart, or you're a good friend. Call those things on you, speak those things about yourself as well. And it was really fun that night when we went through the word power process, because everybody was like, wait, you know what? I really am, I'm a brilliant person. I'm really good at this. And it was just not nice to see everybody take time to take inventory of those really positive qualities about themselves and to see that within themselves.
That's awesome. I am so proud of you. And I have absolutely loved watching your journey and seeing you just evolve.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful. Phyllis says, thank you for being a blessing. You have inspired me to start journaling again.
Oh, that's so good. I'm so happy, Phyllis. Do it. That's so good. Journaling is also a great place to start when you feel like there may be a book inside of you.
Oh, absolutely.
I highly encourage you to do that. Journaling is something, I love doing it. I've kept journals for years and years and years. And I always, if I find a good blank journal on the shelf, especially like at, some of these retail stores like TJ Maxx and Marshalls, they always have them and they're really super affordable. And I'll just stack up on them and keep them. I give them as gifts all the time, but I definitely use them. So.
And don't you love going back and reading after years have passed?
Yes, exactly.
Sometimes I'm shocked, like, oh, Lord.
I know. I know. Well, and two, it's one, you see how there were things that seemed so devastating at the time.
Right.
And they really weren't as, life-threatening as it may have felt like in your head. Or you see, your own growth. That's one thing that I love, is recognizing my growth and, how I would handle things differently, having the opportunity to look back on them if they were to happen to me now.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, Tony, you've definitely been an inspiration tonight. Remind people one more time how they can connect with you and how they can get the book.
You can connect with me on Instagram at Tony Purry, and also at My Hype Book. And then you can find the book at myhypebook.com. And I would love to connect with everybody. It's a really fun time for me because I get to work with people on a more individual basis, and I haven't been able to do that in all my career. And so I'm having really a blast doing that now.
Yeah. That's awesome. Barb is on here, and Barb's, she was at the retreat.
Yes.
She has her hype book, and she was actually reading through hers while we were on this call tonight.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That retreat was so much fun. I mean, it was beautiful. We were there about 12 of us at the house.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were from all over, from
They were
California
from
to
all
New
over.
York.
I
Mhm.
know, from New
Yeah.
York, from California.
Hmm.
Um, that was such a special long weekend. I love it.
Yeah.
The house we stayed in was beautiful. I mean, you
Yeah.
led really such a, and here's the thing is I remember when you decided to do that, you called
Yeah.
me, you're like, Tony, I'm gonna do a retreat. And I'm like, okay, do it, girl, do it. And you're like, I want you to come and speak. Okay, I'll do it.
And before I could even get it out, you're like, yes,
Yes,
yes.
I know it. I know. You're like, no, you were like, Tony, I want you to pray about it. Yes, yes, yes.
That's what
I'm
it
in.
was.
I'm in.
Yes.
That's one thing. We have always been the two that all we have to do is say we are going to do
That's
something.
it.
And
That's
we're
it.
like, yes, girl, you can do it, you know. And
Yes.
so that's a also thing I think I talked about with the women is having that hype tribe.
Yes.
You need to have a hype tribe. You need to have those
Mhm.
people around you that will encourage you and inspire you and say, yes, you can do it.
That's right.
And you know, believe in you and be that advocate for you during those times where you're having a hard time advocating for yourself.
Yeah. And call you out when you need to be called
Yes.
out
Oh,
too. You
absolutely.
know? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
I remember when I was, you know, there have been times where I've been in a place and you're like, Tony, no, I don't think that. Yes, Tasha, yes, no. And then you're so good though, you'll ask the questions, but have you thought about, but are you looking at, and so then after I'm like, okay, Tasha, fine, you know. I
Got
love
to
it.
transition in and out of that coach and friend mode.
I know it. We definitely do. We take
Yes.
turns. I
Yes.
know. I
And,
love
and I love asking guests this question because the whole concept of this is connected women win.
it.
And
Yes.
that's why I love handpicking the guests for this, is because I want people to see that it's possible that women can come together, have healthy
Oh,
relationships,
sure.
can encourage each other, all of that stuff. So, Tony, what does connected women win mean to you?
Oh my goodness. You know what? I will tell you, it has come to mean so much to me, especially over the last 2 years
Mhm.
of being away from my agency, because
Yeah.
I was so engrossed in my work that I didn't have time really for my relationships, my girlfriend relationships, like I wish I had. I look back now and I have a lot of regret because my family and my friends would call me and the first thing they'd say is, "Hey Tony, I know you're busy, but can I just?
Wow.
I know you're busy, but."
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful that they all held on in spite
Yeah.
of me being so too busy for anything.
Right.
And because now what I do is I'm a part of a lot of women's network groups that are fantastic. I'm meeting some really dynamic women. I've
Yeah.
reconnected with a lot of my friends that I just didn't have the time to have regular relationship with. And
Mhm.
I am so fed by those relationships. And I am so honored that I have them in my lives. And
Mhm.
so connected women win. It's exactly what it says. I feel like a winner because I am
Yeah.
connected to the women that I have that I am in my
Awesome.
life. They are they're special to me. I glean from them, I learn from them, I celebrate
Yeah.
them. And I'm really meeting a lot of really special and powerful women. And I'm so very thankful for that. It's my life is all the richer because of that. And I hate that I spent, you know, 10 years not having time for that. But
Mhm.
you know, it's okay. You know, it's
Yeah,
really good now. And I feel like I'm certainly making up for lost time. So
absolutely.
congratulations to you for launching this because I think it's
Thank
really
you.
powerful that we understand the value of when we come together and when we
Yeah,
support each other. And I think this is definitely a season where that is far more embraced than it ever used to be.
thank you. And I appreciate your voice being added to the conversation. This has been a really, really good conversation tonight. You definitely, every time I talk to you, I get inspired. But even if you are watching the replay or if you just logged in, definitely go back and listen to this because Tony shares some practical things in her own story on just starting and the importance of telling your story. So, Tony, thank you so much.